Welcome to this episode of the Various and Sundry podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined in studio as always by my good friend and co-host and partner in podcasting, the one, the only, John Sloat.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
I'm doing well, enjoying the brisk December morning as we're in the studio today.
I know, it's super cold, but it's sunny, which is super helpful.
Yes, very much enjoy the sun. There's not much of it this time of year in Winona Lake, Indiana, is there?
No.
So, anyway, we appreciate people checking out this podcast that we're doing, the Various and Sundry podcast. And so, for those who may not know who we are, I figured it'd probably be good for us to kind of introduce ourselves a little bit. So, let me just start with you, John. John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So, I work here at Grace. I work in our seminary, so I oversee our blended program. That's where students can get a Master's of Divinity degree or a Master of Arts degree while working on their bachelor's degree. It saves some time, saves some money, so I recruit to that. I do a good bit of travel. I'm also a part-time faculty member, so I teach first-year Greek, I teach history of Christianity, and a few other courses here and there. Beyond that, I'm from the great state of New York.
Okay.
New Yorkers are not shy about saying what is great about their state.
No, they're not.
So I'm from there. My dad grew up there. My mom moved there after she graduated from Grace. She's an alumnus. And in other personal news, I just got engaged a couple months ago. So that's
very exciting.
Very exciting. So we're going to do various and sundry things as we're wedding planning over the next couple months, which you get to officiate.
Yes,
which is very exciting.
That's
for me.
That's going to be fun.
Andrea.
Absolutely.
So, Matt, how about yourself?
So I've been a professor here at Grace College and Theological Seminary for this is my 14th year. So even though I'm on sabbatical this current semester, as this episode is being recorded, I teach New Testament. I teach the upper level Greek stuff, and I very much enjoy getting the opportunity to mentor and work with students, preparing them for ministry. On the personal end of things, I've been married to Kate for almost 24 years and got 2 college-age sons, both of them enrolled here at Grace. John's a senior, Jake's a freshman. And like you, I am quick to offer the fact that I grew up in the great state of Ohio.
Yeah.
And so... as a born and bred Buckeye, that will be a theme that will probably resurface.
Are there 2 states that have more state pride than New York and Ohio?
I'm not sure. I think they have to rank up there in that realm.
Yeah, totally.
So, as the podcast unfolds in the episodes to come, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about our personal lives and things like that. But in this sort of preview episode, I wanted to...
Episode 0.
Episode 0, yes. Yes. Yeah, which it's hard to do. Is this a prequel, but we haven't really done the regulars? I don't know how you number those things, but we're calling it Episode 0,
Episode
right?
0.
Okay, that's what we're going with. Well, so let's talk a little bit about why this podcast? Because, I mean, there are like a million podcasts out there. So what is it that led us to do this podcast?
Well, I would say there's a whole bunch of things came together at the same time. Mm-hmm. First, you and I had Sunday lunch together for the last 4 years with your family, incredibly gracious, inviting me over. And we would just have conversations.
Yeah.
We had an eavesdropper on those conversations, your son Jake, who maybe a year and a half ago said, you guys should start a podcast. You guys should start talking. And so really this is a product of our friendship.
Yeah.
Another thing that came together to make this happen is we've got a new dean, Freddie Cardoza, who is big into podcasting. And so all of a sudden we had easy access
that was
to
a big
equipment.
Piece. Yeah.
And so that was a big piece as well.
Absolutely. And really, I think that note of friendship is pretty significant in terms of our friendship forming over the last, goodness, it's probably close to 10 years plus now. When did you graduate from from seminary? Because I had you as a late undergrad into your seminary.
Yeah. So when I graduated from seminary, it would have been December of 2012. I graduated from seminary. So graduated from undergrad December of 2009.
Yeah, so we're talking basically 10 years. Yeah. And you were in my mentor group.
Yeah.
And then from there, started just in one sense kind of became part of our family in many respects. And I think part of our friendship has been cemented as well by traveling together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a key part of our friendship. Yeah. At Grace, we have the opportunity to lead trips all over the world. And you and I have done 2 mystery trips now.
Yeah.
Where we don't tell students where we're going, and we reveal at the airport where we go. So our first trip, we did Sydney, Australia, Christchurch, New Zealand, and Tokyo, Japan.
Yep, great sights. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a wonderful trip.
A lot of flying, though.
A lot of time in planes.
Yes.
We saw the late John McCain on that trip as
yes,
well,
we did.
which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, just bizarre, but yeah.
We had a student get kicked out of first class on that trip, which was incredible. During the flight, not while we were on the ground.
Right.
Otherwise, she would have probably been asked to leave the plane.
Yeah,
But, and then our most recent trip this last summer, we took students and we went to Reykjavik, Iceland. We went to Helsinki, Finland, which, in my opinion, may be one of the most phenomenal cities on the planet.
Yes, I seem to recall you saying, "Can we please start a satellite location of Grace College and Theological Seminary here, and I will run it."
I'd be lying if I haven't looked at PhD programs in Helsinki, Finland. And then we finished off our trip in London, England, which was marvelous.
Absolutely. So, but even thinking back further than that, I think one of the things that really cemented our friendship and your connection with our family was actually we went to Israel together. Back in 2000, I guess it would have been January 2011, I think, right?
January 2011.
And that's how you got to know not just me, but also Kate. And that just was a phenomenal group of people on that
First time
trip.
I ever called you Matt was in Israel.
I'm amused that you remember where that was.
Yes, I remember you and Dr. Ross, our Old Testament professor, both where I called you by your first names. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So really, this podcast is an outflow of like you said, the kind of conversations we'd have on Sunday afternoons while watching football or basketball, and those conversations range all over the map, which is really the reason we eventually landed on this title for the podcast of Various and Sundry. That we tend to have different areas that these conversations focus on, but they really can be quite wide-ranging and often will intersect rapidly between these different areas. So I thought it might be helpful for us to maybe lay out some of these areas that people can expect to hear us addressing as we're talking on the podcast. It's in the little graphic on the podcast of these areas, but I thought it might be good for us to talk about just our interest in these areas. So let's start with the first one in theology.
Yeah, that might be the easiest one to talk about. We both work at a seminary. We both teach theology to undergraduate students and to seminary students. And so this is an area that you and I have both studied. You're probably more of an expert than I, but that doesn't stop me from interjecting an opinion or a question at any time.
Yeah, and I think it also is reflected in an area that will kind of come up indirectly, probably in all of these, is the idea of reading. That really reading informs all of these areas that we're going to talk about. We both love books, but one of the primary areas that we tend to read in is in the areas of theology and Bible, as we'll talk about in a minute. And so, in fact, we've done the last several summers a reading group with the two of us and some other guys, picking a biblical theology book to read through together and discuss over the summer, and that's been a really great experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The second one on our list is ministry, and you and I are involved in ministry in different capacities. I would consider our jobs at some level ministry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we are influencing pastors for the future. Mm-hmm. And then you and I also teach at our local church, Christ Covenant, just down the road here.
Yep.
And I know I have a class coming up through the winter and through February. And
Pastoral epistles, right?
Yeah, Titus and 1st or 2nd Timothy. I really don't think we've decided yet. There's something published out there, I'm sure, but we'll get there. And then you just finished a class at our church as well.
Yeah, so I finished a course going through my book, Asking the Right Questions. And one of the cool things about that was that we have video recorded that, and eventually, Lord willing, that will show up on the Gospel Coalition in the form of they've now started making free courses available for people to look at different topics from different experts and that kind of stuff. So it will eventually show up there.
Yeah, yeah. And we have a mutual friend that has gone through some of those courses and has really enjoyed those. So that's very exciting.
Absolutely. But really, I think even the interest that we have in these in theology and some of these other areas in Bible, it is not for itself. It's ultimately for the life and ministry of the church. It's for the interest of we're not just interested in intellectual pursuits, as valuable as those are,
or platform building. We're
Correct.
not interested in building our own platform. Yeah,
we really want to help pastors, lay level people, Christians in general, to think well about these various areas, which ultimately kind of leads us to our third area. Is it's rooted in the Bible.
Yeah, rooted in Scripture.
That we're both committed to Scripture and want to take seriously that Scripture is what shapes the life and ministry of the church. That's the final authority, and that it's something that should be at the center of the life and ministry of the church.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then really the fourth area that we've got listed there is culture. And in one sense, that's kind of, in one sense, thinking, I would say, beyond sort of the walls of the church, or beyond our sort of internal discussions as Christians, if you want to say it that way, and thinking about what things are going on in our culture and how should we as Christians think about that and think about engaging both the culture in the macro level, but also on the sort of personal dialogue level of in the workplace or with neighbors.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's how we engage throughout a variety of topics that maybe the Bible doesn't necessarily speak directly to.
Yeah.
But ways that we believe we have grasped aspects of wisdom that the Bible has for us that we can then apply to these different areas in a way that's winsome, in a way that's attractive, and in a way that's ultimately helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my public service to our listening audience that you can expect frequent Tim Keller references from John.
I'm a big Tim Keller fan. I'm sorry.
No need to apologize. I'm just...
Yeah. Even some illustrations that I have, I kind of like, ooh, Tim Keller said that. I kind of like that. Now I'm going to apply that over here. Yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of a running joke in the Harmon family anytime we hear you speak or teach of keeping tally of number of references to Timmy K.
Yeah.
Along the way there.
Yeah. He just had an article published in The Atlantic. Somebody did a profile of him, an interview. Yeah. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't.
But we may have to talk about it.
But I'm not surprised you did.
On episode 1, There
you go. And then really the last area is sports. We're both big sports fans. It's a big piece of our lives. And
you being from Ohio, of course, love the Buckeyes.
Yeah, it's in one sense it's going to be sad that we're launching this in January because in the fall a big piece of the Harmon household is Saturdays and watching Ohio State football. And this has been a banner year so far. As we record this, we're on the cusp of playing in the Big Ten championship and very likely making the college football playoff. So it'll be interesting that maybe the very first episode 1 will be potentially, if I can get my hopes up, after an Ohio State national championship, which
you may have just jinxed it.
If that happens, I could be mildly intolerable at that point.
Yeah, which is going to cause listenership to go way down.
Well, it depends. Not if we promote well in this great state of Ohio. So, and there are plenty of there's a lot of Ohio transplants here in this area where we're
not that far from Ohio.
No. Yeah. Now you on the other hand are can I say long-suffering New York sports fan?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
I have never seen one of my New York teams win a championship. So I am more of a pro sports person,
right?
Not so much as a college person. Probably, and you're more college than pro.
Yeah, I think that's probably right.
And so I think that's one way that this works.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no competing.
We're not sitting here arguing about the finer points of the Ohio State that team up north game.
No.
But yes, I am a Jets Mets and Knicks fan.
Right.
And so that's been problematic. I remember the Mets did a Twitter event where there's a hashtag like "Why I'm a Mets fan," and the responses were amazing.
I bet.
I enjoy pain and suffering. I'm a masochist. Right. All these things started coming out about why we're Mets fans, and I would say that goes for Jets and Knicks, certainly Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who just can't seem to figure anything out.
Yeah. Well, and not that you're, I mean, just to be clear, you're not a Giants fan, obviously.
No,
but
not a
the
Giants
Giants
fan.
are also a dumpster fire right now as well.
Right now. But they've won 2 Super Bowls in my lifetime.
Correct.
Which hurts.
Which I have to imagine that, especially when you contrast it with the sickening success, this is a point of agreement, the sickening success of Boston and New England teams.
Not a big fan of either.
That has to just sort of roll the stomach when it comes to seeing that success.
And through the 90s, the Yankees as well was pretty difficult to swallow.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, I think we can expect plenty of conversation. In fact, it strikes me, even as we talk about this, I was saying to my boys, we're living in the golden age of Ohio State football right now. This is the longest sustained stretch of success that Ohio State football has ever had. Even though it's one of the traditional powers and programs, but in terms of like a sustained level of success, Ohio State's never had this. And so, my boys are 21 and 18. In my youngest son's lifetime, he's only seen Ohio State lose to the rival Michigan twice. In his lifetime.
Yeah,
that's just, and the first time I think he was 2 years old, so he doesn't remember it.
Yeah, and I think in his lifetime the Jets have beaten the Patriots maybe 2 or 3 times, and they play twice a year.
Yeah. So in one sense, we're kind of at the opposite ends of the spectrum in terms of I'm experiencing, and even this year, the Ohio State men's basketball team is off to a fabulous start. They're strong.
Yeah.
So we're kind of at the opposite ends of the spectrum here of you're experiencing the doldrums of sports fandom.
Let's keep dwelling on it. Let's keep talking about it. Yeah.
But we will talk a decent bit about sports in this podcast. But at this point, we just wanted to give a taste of what you can expect on this podcast as we move forward. Our plan is to launch, shall we call them semi-regular episodes?
Semi-regular, every couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, it depends on our schedules in terms of, unless someone out there wants to fund this podcast to the point where we don't need to work on other things, which doesn't seem likely.
No.
We do have other responsibilities, and but we're going to shoot for pretty regular, at least kind of every other week to get us started, and maybe every week, depending on how things go.
Yeah.
So semi-regular, I think, is the right way to call it.
Semi-regular.
Yeah, I think we'll stick to that. But so as you have opportunity or think you might be interested, we'd obviously love you to spread the word about this podcast and get the word out to people who might enjoy this mixture of theology, ministry, Bible, culture, and sports. And hopefully it's something that you'll enjoy. And we'll give you opportunities to interact with us in terms of through social media or through even email. In the show notes, you can contact us. We'll be on Twitter. We've got a Twitter set up.
Yeah,
fledgling Twitter account.
Has about 4 followers. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we've accomplished what we had set out to do with this episode 0, as we're calling it now. And so I think we have covered our various and sundry topics for today. And until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.